Audio 2, The Eternity of Sound and the Science of Mantra, Chapter 2, Astonishing Power of Shabda, the Eternal Element of Sound. We all can easily experience the power of hydrothermal, electric, and wind energies in different forms. That Shabda or any form of sound also has similar or greater impact cannot be believed or realized so clearly. Even the visible effects of music are found to vary according to the physiology or emotional state of the subject and are therefore experienced in varied contexts and intensities. Scientific investigations on the existence and properties of sound waves indicate that the effects of sound could be as physical as those of other forms of energy. The Doppler effect is worth mentioning in this regard. The historical breaking of the bridge due to the superimposition of the cyclic sound created by the ordinary footsteps of Napoleon's army, falls of several huge and stout bridges due to the synchronized sound of noisy winds or noises of the surroundings, for instance, the falls of the Lau Bernard Bridge in France in 1852 and 1871. The Ohio Rivers Bridge in USA in 1854 and those of its Niagara waterfalls in 1884, 1889. The bridge over Tacoma River in Washington in 1940, etc. are some of the well-known examples of the significant effect. Some German scientists are said to have gained, during their time of First World War, the knowledge about the development of the weapon that could produce sound waves of a frequency higher than 105 vibrations per second. Such waves would ruin the targeted persons in less than a second because the resultant sonic effects would destroy the neurons of the subject at a rate faster than that due to a high-power direct electric shock. According to acoustic experts, even the harmonious tune of a musical instrument, if repeated under appropriate synchronization in terms of frequency, amplitude, intensity, and rhythm with other musical outputs, that is, the tinkling sound of the bell in the ankle ornament of a dancer, can result in the destruction of the stage set for the musical performance. Similar destructive effect could be observed by the orderly superimposed highly intensity audible sounds. Occurrences of earthquakes are also largely attributed to similar effects of periodic resonance of superimposed sound waves at specific frequencies in a specific order deep inside the Earth's surface. It appears that the destructive power of sound could be used in lieu of dynamite, for instance, to create high-energy explosions. In order to make constructive use of this gross effect of the amplified powers of superimposed sound waves, some physicists have carried out systematic experiments in advanced labs. One interesting experiment conducted in the Westinghouse lab at New York is worth citing here. An 8-foot-long iron rod of 50 kg weight was hung in the center of this lab. A small bottle cork weighing merely 0.5 ounce was also hung, parallelly near the rod. The experiment was set so that the cork would hit the rod at a constant frequency without any disturbance. An immediate thought in our mind would be that the hits of such a tiny cork would only result in its own destruction, but the facts are quite the contrary. After 15 minutes of these periodic collisions, the rod was found to have vibrations in it. An hour later, the rod began to oscillate like a pendulum. In the ordinary vibrations, and hence the sound of such a tiny dimensions could be so powerful, then one can imagine the gigantic impact of the enormous vibrations created by the ever more loud sound ranging from day-to-day speech to traffic noise and to explosive sounds of spacecrafts, etc., produced by the living beings on the earth and by the natural collisions and explosions in the space. Modern scientific research has gone a long way in its study of the sonic waves. These investigations, coupled with the advancement of electronics, have now made the speech recognition by machines like computers and robots an established reality. Applications of the radio waves and the lasers have become integral part of modern life. It is not far from sight when experiments will be set in the advanced labs to verify and demonstrate the supernatural physical effects of classical music, such as the automatic kindling of oil lamp by Rag Deepak, the potential of Rag Malhar in commencing rainfall at any time at the singer's will, the power of Rag Sankar in transforming a dry wood stem into a blossoming tree, etc. The progress at the same pace of the current practice of using the creative power of music in psychological treatments, stress management, and in healthier maintenance of animals and vegetation, etc., would certainly pave the way for the realization and use of the knowledge of Shabda and Nad for an overall ascent of personality as described in the Indian scriptures of yore. On the subtler front as well, modern science is moving towards investigating, to some extent, the latent powers and subtle energies of Sabda as described in the ancient Indian scriptures. The journey of research from atoms to electromagnetic waves has finally been oriented on the fundamental and vital role of sound waves, pervaded everywhere in the cosmic expansion. The Big Bang hypothesis of the origin of the universe is also coming closer to those theories cited in the Vedic literature. The scriptures on yoga rendered significant importance to Shabda Sadhana, the spiritual experiment of the realization of the eternal cosmic sound, via the practice of Swar Yoga, Surati Yoga, and the Mantra Yoga. The science and the philosophy of mantra has emerged from the in-depth knowledge of the rishis and their expertise in using the latent power of Shabda and Nad towards fulfilling the noble purpose of global purification and uplifting at the physical as well as the spiritual level. This is the reason why, in case of every mantra, it is the pattern and the strength of vibrations and energy generated by its japa and not its linguistic structure, grammar, or the word meaning that play the key role in making the mantra so effective. The Vedic mantras are said to have been created at specific configuration of phonemes and syllables corresponding to the sonic pattern of the enormous expressions of the subliminal vibrations of the unlimited expansion of Brahman as realized by the rishis in the state of deep trance. Sonic energy, being a physical manifestation of Shabda, exists in its original form in the universe forever without any natural conversion into any other form of energy. The subtle vibrations and impact of mantra is therefore regarded as eternal. In scientific terms, the vibrations in any material form or in the etheric medium constitute the fundamental source of existence and manifestation of sound. We all know the quavering of the wires of the musical instrument creates specific vibrations in the medium in the vicinity of these wires. Due to this, the air around is first compressed and then spread periodically according to the frequency of these vibrations. The sound so generated is carried along the entire expansion of the medium. The vibrations carried via the air medium are audible if they fall into the frequency range of 16 to 20,000 cycles per second in general. Upon perception by the nerve sensor in the ears, these vibrations are transmitted through appropriate electrical signals to the neural system in our brain, and the corresponding sounds is heard by us. The presence of the medium of the air is essential for the normal functions of hearing by the ears in the human body. For most of the marine animals, the medium of water fulfills this purpose. In some creatures, the centers for perception and transmission of sound are located along the skin pores or elsewhere in the body instead of the ears. The position of our two ears help instantaneous hearing of the audible sound and the recognition of the direction from where it's arriving. However, despite optimal functioning state of the brain and the ears, we cannot hear the infrasound produced by the vibrations of frequencies much lower than 16 cycles per second, and the ultrasound generated by vibrations of frequencies much higher than 20,000 cycles per second. Moreover, even the sound belonging to the audible frequency range but produced a long distance or in a noisy surrounding would not be heard by our ears because the disturbance in the air medium would perturb its original vibration in such cases. The orderly expansion of the sound waves of compatible characteristics produce well-structured sonic patterns while the disorder converts them into a noise. The velocity, around 1088 feet per second of sound, is much lesser than that of light. This is the reason why the flash of lightning is seen before the loud noise of a thunderbolt, or smoke produced by the cannon is seen before the cracking sound of its explosion is heard. How far a sound will be heard or received by a sensor that is perceptive to its frequency depends upon its intensity and loudness. The larger is the intensity, the lesser would be the effect of distance. For example, the noise of a volcano exploded in Indonesia in 1883 was heard up to a distance of over 5,000 miles in open air. The propagation of the sound is hindered or reflected back whenever its carrier medium is blocked. This gives rise to an echo or the dispersed sound depending upon the atomic structure and the shape of the obstacle. The quality, loudness, and amplitude of the reverberation depends upon the type of the original sound and the regularity and the geometry of the dense medium or the obstruction with which the sound waves collide. Times the sound produced at one place and perceived within a certain range can be heard beyond an intermediate region of its non-perception. For instance, an explosion that took place in Moscow sometimes in 1920s became popular because its noise was heard up to 60 miles, but not at a distance from 60 to 90 miles. Amazingly, it was clearly heard at a distance of another 60 miles forward, within the distance from 91 to 121 miles approximately from the place where it occurred. Propagation of sound via radio waves amplifies its velocity up to the order of 186,000 miles per second or more. This is how the radio station can communicate from one end of the globe to the other in a matter of few seconds. Marching ahead from the knowledge and utilization of radio waves, the modern science and technology have advanced up to the level of capturing as well as generating infrasound and ultrasound with the help of the sophisticated instruments. The present century might enable experimentation on still higher dimensions of sound and pave the way for experiencing the yet hidden realms of its sublime existence.